I always say that the most important thing we do is helping people buy books.
Okay.
Whether it be ringing them up, answering their questions, pointing things out.
Sure.
But it's also the thing we have the least amount of time for.
Some days, yeah.
To be able to get the product for them to buy on the shelves.
Sure.
Sometimes we have to make a choice between checking these books in or helping somebody find a book.
It's unfortunate.
Come on and visit for any occasion. Don't keep patting down waiting. Comics and conversation. Keep the conversation moving along. Keep bringing comics. Keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and W. Dal Bush.
Welcome to episode number 540 of Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast from Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago. All information you've already been given. Mere seconds into the podcast, we're already repeating it. Anyway, welcome.
Me or the listener?
You replied, so you.
Oh, okay. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Right now, as we're recording this, it is officially the halfway point of this year.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a lie. Was it noon today?
Okay.
And noon today was the halfway point of 2021.
I wasn't going to fact check you on it.
We are already in the back half of 2021.
Yeah.
Dal, how is your 2021 shaping up?
Like, how has it been to date? Or how is it going to look going forward?
Yes, both of those.
Good and hopefully good.
Well, that's great. Thank you for the detail.
I don't really, I'm not usually that, like, reflective at this point in the year. In general, I tend not to be someone who looks back at an entire year and tries to make a narrative out of it, mostly because I don't remember. I mean, I
can vouch for that. You don't remember.
I've made it to July 2nd, so whatever happened so far in 2021 must have been okay. I got vaccinated. It's okay. And then for the second half, I don't know, I hope good. Like,
you're going to get vaccinated again?
If I have to, sure.
I mean, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Just for a different vaccine.
Yeah, certainly if it's an option available to me and you know, I don't want to say required, but like recommended by a medical professional, sure.
Oh,
yes.
I mean the influenza vaccination.
Nothing's required. You're not forced to do anything.
No, but you'll get one.
Because it's recommended by a medical professional, yes.
I've heard that medical professionals recommend we stop this podcast.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, there's nothing I'm necessarily fearing in the second half of the year, so I hope it goes well.
A question that I always cringe at because I'm so bad at it is, what upcoming comics and graphic novels are you most excited for in the back half of the year?
Primordial.
What is that?
That's the new Jeff Lemire, Andrew Sorrentino book that I read the first issue of today.
Is it good?
It's really good.
Yeah?
It's really good.
It's about space traveling monkeys.
Yeah, I mean, without giving too much away, the short description I'd probably give it is like, we three in space.
Okay.
It's really good. It's a really good first issue.
I have two questions.
Okay.
Actually, it's one question with two parts.
Okay.
One, is Laika the space dog in it?
Yes.
Two, is it the same Laika from the Marvel Universe? I know that dog is actually Cosmo.
Yeah, unsure, but possibly.
Okay. That was, what is it, two? I meant B.
Mm-hmm.
My head isn't in the game. I'm very hurty.
That's okay.
I'm very hurty all over. My first half of the year has been painful. I got a text from a friend today that just said, "How you holding up?" I'm like, I can't reply to this.
Barely.
All it is going to be is just like
Barely
miserably. And somebody else on Messenger has been like, "How are you?" Like, I'm not going to answer this.
Yeah.
Because it's bad.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that when your discomfort and pain is this constant, like, even talking about it is just like, I don't want to go through the same things again. I don't want to have to keep telling people, yes, I'm in a lot of pain. Yes, I'm working on it. No, it's not getting any better. I don't know if it's going to get better. I'm doing literally everything I can. I appreciate your concern, but talking about it is not making it better. Like, all that stuff feels like something you could, like, print out on a little card and just hand to people. When they ask, how's your leg doing? Here you go.
Yeah.
You can have this and read it when you get home.
It's just that most people think it's the other leg. No, it's the other
It's
one.
the whole body.
Yeah, literally from the...
All of the meat carcass
Yeah.
is
I was going to say
problematic.
from the waist down, but no, it's higher than that.
Yeah.
Today was especially limpy, and there were some people that... It's like, I'm doing my most to not go out on the floor or bend over or pick things up or show things, but there's times you have to.
Sure.
Then I'm like, I am really limping at this.
Yeah.
Like, is it because it hurts that much, or is part of this affectation? Like, you're making me do this, so I'm going to show you why I didn't want to.
Well, if it were anyone else, I'd say the second one is unlikely, but knowing you, maybe, subconsciously.
Yeah, that's just it. It's subconscious. I don't even know that I'm doing it.
Let me make a big production of this, so you regret asking me to do this, and you realize your culpability in my pain.
Here are some random questions for the day that I'm not really sure the answers of.
Okay.
Why do we rack League of Extraordinary Gentlemen under superhero?
It's a superhero book. The gimmick is it's a super team made up of 19th century, 19th century
19th century.
Fictional characters.
Yeah.
Like, the joke of it is that they're like the Avengers or the X-Men. Like, it's the joke.
It was suggested we keep it in horror.
No. Incorrect.
No, I can see why, though.
Why?
There's horror elements in it.
Yeah, but there's also action-adventure elements. And,
Sure.
like...
Right, which is why a case could be made for every
Yeah.
genre. Drama. They're all drama characters.
They're not, though. That's the thing. They're kind of all
Yeah, they're
over the
horror
place.
characters.
They're not, though. Like, a lot of them, like, Quartermain was just, like, an adventure character. Some of them are just metaphors.
You mean a ripoff of Indiana Jones?
They're not intended to be any particular genre beyond, literary, which is where most of these characters would be racked in, like, a bookstore. But when you put them together in a super team, and you make them fight, like, supervillain characters in supervillain schemes, it's a superhero comic.
Did you hear that Alan Quartermain died this week?
I did not.
The Alan Quartermain from General Hospital.
Oh, okay.
Yep. He was a villain from even back when I used to watch it in college.
Sorry for your loss.
I mean, I guess he left the show right around when Challengers opened, to be honest.
Still a show?
Yeah. No, but...
I don't want to be that guy, but I just assume soap operas aren't made anymore.
I don't even know. I don't think they are, but he left it before it went away. Who knows? And his on-screen daughter or foster daughter, I don't know, it was after my time, Amber Tamblyn, had a nice tribute to him.
How nice.
Mm-hmm. Comic related, see?
Sure, okay.
I have no idea how. Just because you said Quartermain.
Sure.
That's why. That's why I brought it up. Should we rack Death with Sandman?
I mean, we do technically. They're in the same section, but we don't rack them right next to each other now.
But we could, because we do BPRD and Hellboy together.
We could, but like I think BPRD is one of the rare ones that we do that with. Like, in theory, in that case, we might as well be racking literally everything in the Sandman library under S for Sandman, and that just becomes too difficult to find at that point.
Well, we rack everything Star Wars under Star Wars.
We do. That's true.
Aha!
Uh-huh.
So there's that.
Yeah. No, there's a point at which doing it that way becomes more confusing than separating them. The rare person who's like, I only would think to look for Death under the Sandman series, like, we don't even know how many people would never think to look there and are currently finding it under the D for Death section. And again, like, if you do that, then like, okay, great. Books of Magic goes under Sandman now. Dreaming goes under Sandman now. Lucifer goes under Sandman. Hellblazer might as well go under Sandman. Like, these are all things where
No,
it's
Hellblazer
like...
goes under Swamp Thing.
Sandman Library, Hellblazer. So now we have Hellblazer in two different sections because one of them is Sandman Library. So, like, eventually we just have to make a judgment call, and the judgment call in this case is Death does not need to go under Sandman because Death is not... Like, I don't think... It's been 20-something years since I read those stories, but to my knowledge, Morpheus does not appear in the Death stories. It's just a couple Death miniseries where she has her own, adventures or whatever. So no, Death will not be moving to after Sandman in the sci-fi fantasy section.
Well, Death will be moving tomorrow when it moves back to D.
Did you move it to Sandman?
Did I know?
Oh, okay.
Donovan had asked if it can go there, and I said, sure, why not?
Well, here's why not.
Well, there you go. That's why I asked.
Sure.
That is why I asked.
Sure.
I mean, it's brought up numerous times that you could make a case for many different books being under many different genres, but at the end of the day, you have to make a judgment call. There has to be one specific rule.
Yeah, there is no flowchart that we can design that will adequately answer every edge case for how we rack graphic novels. Like, some stuff is just going to be, I know that we do it a different way 99 other times. For the 100th time, we're not going to. With, like, families of titles going together, again, like Hellboy BPRD is like the one you can kind of point to and go, oh, we put BPRD after Hellboy. And we usually would put like all the Magnola-verse stuff together. And some of that was just because the only people who would care were Hellboy fans.
Yeah.
And those books were all over the map alphabetically.
Yep. I mean, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who just reads VPRD and not Hellboy.
Yeah, or just reads, like Witchfinder or whatever, but would never read Hellboy. Like, those people don't exist. There are probably people who are looking for a Death graphic novel, but are not looking for a Sandman graphic novel. Like, that is reasonable to me. And it's certainly more reasonable to assume that there are people who only want books of magic, or only want House of Whispers, or whatever.
Well, I don't think there's anybody who just wants
theoretically.
House of Whispers. Boy, I really think that Dark Horse is milking the Hellboy universe. There's so many...
It's one of their only franchises.
Yeah.
They lost everything else.
But man, it's really...
They lost all the 20th Century Fox stuff.
And it blows my mind how well Aliens is doing for Marvel.
So well. The Hellboy thing is always so weird to me because I just hate how they release material for that universe. Where it's like, oh, here's another 3-issue Hellboy series. Here's a one-shot. Here's a 2-issue series. Here's a different one-shot. Here's a 5-issue miniseries. Like, it's completely random. And what it is frustrating to me now is that I can see that they're already starting to do that with the Black Hammer books.
Yeah.
Where it's just another one of their franchises where, like, there are 800 different titles that are all, like, basically written by the same person that all exist within the same universe. And then they're releasing stuff on top of each other. Like, there's no reason why you should have Black Hammer Reborn and Black Hammer Visions coming out at the exact same time.
Agreed. I figured
dumb.
They were waiting for Visions to end before they did Reborn.
They were not. And then they have the Unteens coming out
immediately
on top of the other two.
Yeah.
Like, Black Hammer Visions came out, and they got like 5 issues into that, and then Black Hammer Reborn starts. And then the next month after that, the Unteens miniseries comes out. It's like, this is how you strangle franchises. Is releasing it in this way.
Yeah.
Not everything is X-Men, where you can just release an infinite number of titles and there will be an audience for it, or Batman. Some things, especially when people are following kind of one writer, like, they can get their fill of that stuff very quickly. 3 titles a month may be the point where people are like, I don't care about Jeff Lemire's Black Hammer universe that much.
Or 3 issues of Spider-Man in a month.
Probably not. They announced some of the artists on that, though.
Did they?
They did. Art Adams is doing covers. Interior stuff is Sarah Pichelli.
Okay, who does the rest of the issue? Look, I am a fan of Sarah Pichelli ever since she was doing Miles Morales, and we were super excited to have her at the store years ago, but now she's all digital, and her style's a lot looser, and she seems to be slow as far as the timing of her books.
Yeah, well, I mean, shocker, there are multiple artists working on this.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily going to be a thing where she's going to be responsible for entire storylines or whatever.
Right, but I just mean, I doubt she could, like, that's... How do I say this without sounding insulting? I'm surprised you would pick her when you have to hit a deadline of 3 issues a month.
Well,
how late was that J.J. Abrams adjacent Spider-Man series?
A ton, but who knows if that was her or not.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure she was part of it, if not all of it.
Yeah, I would honestly usually lay the blame at, non-comics creators for that, where maybe they were just not that thrilled with the scripts they were putting out, and so they're like, all right, we're just going to take a little bit more time to make sure it's something we love.
It just feels like
it's like,
every
okay,
book
well,
she's
we have
been
an
on
artist
lately has been late. Through whose fault, we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly haven't seen enough to know for sure that it's her, but regardless, she's one of the people that's working on it. Michael Dowling is another artist who's working on it.
From?
Black Cat.
No, name a book that I read.
Okay, Black Cat. And Patrick Gleason is obviously one of the artists.
Sure. Those are the three?
That's what they've announced so far.
That's it.
I'm sure there's going to be like 17 more.
I love that they have 3 artists and 5 writers.
Yeah, I mean, this is something where they only really need to have a couple names for at least like the first couple months, because Patrick Gleason's going to be doing, I think, I'd have to dig up the actual article, but they started to lay out like Patrick Gleason's doing like the first 1 or 2, and then
I'm surprised
they'll be laying out other artists as they go on, and as they need to announce more names for solicits, they will probably start announcing more artists to go along with it. They're not just going to say, hey, here are the 15 artists that are working on it for the next 8 months, because it's not relevant at this point.
I wonder if it'll be like Brand New Day, where it was basically a different writer taking a lead on an arc.
No, they actually talked about that. It's going to be sort of similar, where it's all 5 writers are going to be credited as like the Beyond Brain Trust or whatever.
Okay.
So they obviously all plotted this out together where they're going to be going with their story.
Turn the air off.
And then it's like Zeb Wells is like the first 1 or 2, and then Kelly Thompson comes on. So it's going to be switched out a lot more regularly, like maybe like 52 rather than like Brand New Day, where it's discrete arcs by discrete teams.
I was surprised that it wasn't Patrick Gleason doing the Patrick Gleason written arcs. Like, I assumed that he would want to draw what he writes, especially because he could probably shortcut some of the writing, of what you need to tell the artist you're doing, because he is in fact the artist on those. But you also want to lead off on a strong foot, and you want them done on time, so that's Patrick Gleason.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's going to be doing his own stuff and other people's stuff, and parts of stories and whatever.
I think it would be hilarious if the cover artist they hired for this, instead of Art Adams, Doug Mankey.
Don't worry, Patrick Gleason's also doing some covers.
Oh, okay.
He's doing a webhead variant. He's doing some other things.
Oh, man.
I don't know if there's a thing where they...
I don't want you to count, but is there over 20 possible covers for number 1?
They haven't announced... I mean, that's going to be in the next catalog. They haven't announced how they're doing variant covers. They've honestly not even shown off all of their covers. I don't think they've shown off the A cover for the first issue of the storyline. They've just shown off like the second and third covers.
Okay. I'm sure there'll be too many. You know why? Because there's too many covers anywhere, ever in the industry.
Wells will kick off the new Spider-Man Beyond Era as the writer of October 6th Amazing Spider-Man 75 and October 13th Amazing Spider-Man 76, both with art with Gleason, while October 20th Amazing Spider-Man 77 will be written by Kelly Thompson with art from Sarah Pichelli. That is the official breakdown of the first month of Amazing Spider-Man comics from the new creative teams.
I wonder how we order those books.
I guess we'll find out.
I think we go up a tiny bit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who responds when the new catalog goes up. Like, if a bunch of people start adding Amazing Spider-Man, that's a clue that people were looking for a change from the current storylines and are excited what the new team is going to do. But if we see a bunch of drops, that's going to go the other way. And
we're not going out of our way either way to point out to people, oh, it's a new creative team, it's 3 times a month. Everybody's just going to keep getting it. Like, when somebody asked today, am I going to still keep getting them? I'm like, yeah, it's just the next issue.
Yeah.
It's not a new series.
It's issue 75, yes. If you got 74, we're going to assume you want 75. But we'll be sending out, the catalog will have the new issue spotlighted, so there will be at least a way that when people are browsing through the Marvel section, they'll be like, oh, it's a new creative team in a new direction, a new character. I'm going to jump on now. Or, I would like to be taken off of this book because of all those same reasons. Okay. It
was pointed out to me that we made a mistake this week, and I'll take more credit for it, but we should have put the DC Connect in the previews of the people that were getting previews.
Oh, I hadn't realized we had not.
No. Well, because it came
on a different day.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't all together at the same time. And remember, they sent us extra on a different shipment, or they sent it separately?
Okay.
Remember that was the thing?
Yeah, there was some in the next week's shipment.
They prioritized getting it out because it should have been in the last week's, is the point.
Okay.
So yeah, we should have done that. I didn't even think to, just because it wasn't in the things that I was unpacking.
Yeah, and on top of that, there hasn't been a DC Connect catalog in 7 months?
Yeah.
So I got out of the habit of thinking people would want that or that we had a responsibility to give it to them.
It amazes me how long it takes me to check in a current Diamond order when it doesn't have any DC books.
Nope.
Any DC product. And it takes me the same amount of time as it used to.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because there's so many extra covers.
There really are.
And the amount of effort it takes to check in one variant cover from one special order, it's almost the same amount of time it is to check in a stack of Amazing Spider-Man, you know?
True.
It's so much extra effort and organization and slows you down pulling club.
It does, that's for sure.
It is such a hassle. And I don't want to be the guy who's constantly saying week after week how much he hates it, but I hate it every week.
You really do.
I really do.
And you do say it every week.
Next week is going to be rough. I say it more to you.
Sure.
But I say it here a lot.
It's true.
And I don't want people to not get the cover that they want, but I don't get the people that don't get it if they can't get the cover they want.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to break down sort of what we're always thinking when it comes to variant covers, if you want variant covers, we want to be able to get them for you. But deep inside, we wish you didn't want them, if that makes sense. Like, if someone feels like they want to have it, and they would prefer to have a certain cover for a certain book, and it's within our ability to get it for them, we're going to do that. Sure, absolutely. We want you to be happy with your purchases. But there is this part deep inside where it's like, I wish this weren't a part of the industry. Like, I wish it wasn't something that we had to facilitate. Like, either if people didn't want them or publishers just stopped making them, either one of those would be a very nice thing to have happen. But neither of those things are going to happen, so this is just where we're at. Like, this is just what it means to run a comic shop in 2021. If you don't like it, if you don't like variant covers or providing variant covers for subscriptions, do not open a comic shop. I'll just say it that way. Like, that is as intrinsic to running a comic shop as, like, paying your electric bill or unlocking the door.
Well, sure. You're saying don't open a comic shop. We already opened a comic shop, and then the business changed.
Right.
So we can close?
If you want, sure.
We
So
had
very little ever stopping you.
I don't want people to feel bad about ordering variant covers from us, but I want some people to feel bad about ordering variant covers from us.
Sure.
I can give you a list of names.
I imagine you could.
Yeah. We had a club member call today and ask for a specific variant cover to be added because they just heard about it. And the amount of that I had to look it up in Diamond to see when that was offered, to see if it's a new cover or an old cover.
Sure.
And it's an old cover. Then I had to place that as a special order in their file. And then I had to... fortunately, it was something we already had on order, so I could just pull it from an existing order. But I had to tie it to that order for them and post that. But, I mean, all those extra steps... And it doesn't sound like a lot when I'm saying it, but it takes time.
It does. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, it's like an extra 2 or 3 minutes worth of work for the same return of just them picking up a book off the shelf.
Sure.
And also, I didn't even check to see if they already get that title, nor did I ask if they wanted it to replace.
Yeah, in addition to or in place of.
Yeah. It's bad enough we had somebody who... came in, a club member came in, and we had pre-ordered a hardcover graphic novel for them. Once they saw it, they said, oh no, I made a mistake, I already have this. And then they brought up some books from the shelf that were already put aside for them, saying, oh, I didn't realize these were aside for me. You have 2 things on your list, and this is one of them. Why would it not be aside for you? Yeah, it was just like, this book will eventually sell it. We would not have ordered it for the shelf, like, because we got one for the shelf and one for this person.
Right.
It's like, oh, we have that expenditure.
Yeah.
Doing numbers this week, I was doing a lot of paperwork. It's the end of the month. It's the end of the quarter. It's the end of the half year.
True.
So there's a lot of analytics and a lot of things to look at. And while June 2021 was our biggest sales month ever, in the history of Challengers, beating the previous month, the highest month, which was just March of this year.
Jesus.
Not even February. Go figure. Where the sale was.
So weird.
Yeah.
So weird.
We also spent way more this month on
Sure.
product than ever before. And
They go hand in hand.
of course they
Yeah.
do, but
Not like we got more profitable all of a sudden.
no. And we're getting less profitable because lowering discounts, and there have been numerous places on the internet this week, numerous stores or online retailers or whatever that did announcements or video shows that explain why they're dropping their discounts, lowering their discounts.
Sure.
Somebody did like a 20-minute analytic chart of how expensive it is to sell comics, and they broke down
Yep.
per publisher, per discount, and they factor in things like, labor and unquantifiable things.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that necessarily.
But this was
I mean, that's cool for them, but that's not like an industry-wide thing.
but it was basically in service of, here's why we're lowering our discount,
Sure.
because we're making so much less money.
Yeah.
And it was, I'll say it, boring.
Sure.
But once I was 10 minutes in, I just started jumping to see.
Sure. 10 minutes. Jesus.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think this kind of stuff, I want to see what is front-facing information given to the general public in regards to running a comic store. Because while we do it on this very podcast, we only ever say this is how we do it or why we do what we do.
Yeah.
And this was more of a general, for anyone who runs a comic store, these are the fees they have to pay, these are the things, whatever, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So it was interesting to see how, with the way they do their business and the discounts they give, how little money they make, and how, like, literally certain publishers that they listed, like, basically, if they continued to give the discount they give, they'd be losing 4 cents per book.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that a lot of stores that have been doing the, like, 30 to 20% discount
Yeah.
over the years are definitely going to be revising those numbers in the second half of 2021. Like,
Yeah.
those numbers, even if they thought they could get away with it, they're going to find out pretty quickly that you're going to have to start thinking more in the terms of like 10 to 15% off, because your profit margin has changed drastically, and you can't afford to keep giving away those kind of discounts.
Gone are the days where we could have reorders come in on a Tuesday, check everything in, get it ready and put it on the shelf for Wednesday, or come in on Wednesday during the day, so we still get it for the majority of the people that come in on a Wednesday if UPS is in our favor.
Yeah.
Today we got in reorders from Diamond, from Hachette, from Penguin Random House, and then yesterday was Simon & Schuster.
Okay.
So those were waiting, and I had to check them all in.
Sorry.
And doing them in at one time is very time consuming because you've got different invoices, different systems.
Yep.
The Penguin Random House packing list didn't print 3/4 of the first page. It just started the first book. It printed half a line of Critical Role Vox Origins 1 was cut off.
Okay.
Then everything below that. Well, it's Penguin Random House, Dal. How many Batman books do we order?
1 or 2.
Like half the order.
It's a lot.
So none of those were
It's a lot.
on the invoice.
Yeah.
And that makes it harder. My favorite title is MMPRTMNT. That's just how it is on the invoice.
Sure.
Yep. Although in the system
At
it's
least
under...
I know what that one is. There's a bunch
Sure.
that are just...
But in the system that's
Batman
actually...
Ball. Okay, what?
In the system that one is Power Rangers.
It is. That's correct.
Yeah. And there was just the same usual, like, oh, here's a stack of My Hero Academia Vigilantes. There's no, let me write the volume numbers on the invoice as I go through just to be able to compare it to.
Sure.
And it's so many extra steps. And I still can't find the PO number on the Penguin Random House invoices. It might have been on the page that was cut off.
Oh, okay.
Luckily, I had that invoice open online just to be able to say which is the right invoice for the ones we were missing. The items we were missing, and it was listed there.
Yeah. I mean, it's assuming it wasn't cut off by the printing process. I think it's on there somewhere. I'll just have
I
to...
didn't think it should have been
point out
cut off
where it
because
is.
it would have been on.
They
But
put
I've
it
done
in an
But I've done it
illogical
before,
place.
so I know that it exists. But I'm like, it has to be on page 2. I don't know why it would be on page 2 as well. Once I even found it online and matched it on the screen, couldn't find that number written anywhere on the invoice.
Hachette makes it real easy.
Yeah.
Simon & Schuster is a little tricky, but you eventually find it. Penguin Random House, like, there'll be 40 different numbers on a given page, one of which is the purchase order, and it appears one time.
Here's another annoying thing that PRH does. Yesterday they got a shipment in, 3 books that were part of today's shipment.
Yeah, that's usually what'll happen, because they're coming out of, like, different warehouses or whatever.
Well,
like, the kid stuff comes one way, and the gaming stuff comes another, and then, like, the bulk graphic novels come a different way.
Yeah, and the dumbest thing is, like, it was a book we had quantity of, so one of them came in yesterday, the rest came in today.
Yep.
How does that even work?
Not great.
I don't understand. Because when I first got in, I'm like, what were these 3 random graphic novels just sitting on the table for? Why are they here? Later the order comes in, I'm like, oh, wait, we got these. Oh, yeah, they're all on this one. So dumb.
Not great.
And we've always prided ourselves on, if you look at the end of the year, and we have a list. One time, Jim McLaughlin from ICB2 posted it. But, you know, we have like over 100 different people we buy product from over the span of the year.
Sure.
That's over the year. Yep. And a lot of that is like, you know, Rachel Bard comes in and restocks us a few times a year.
Sure.
Or, you know, we buy books from Andrea Bell or something like that.
Right.
As well as every distributor, wholesaler, manufacturer, attaboy for buttons, Poster Emporium, who I wanted to do an order today and never had time for.
Sure.
Things like that. But now we're getting regular orders every week. Diamond, Lunar, Penguin Random House, Simon & Schuster, Hachette, Ingram. That's 6 for what used to be 1.
True.
And maybe more coming.
And, like, Diamond in particular is one where it's like, oh, we'd get, you know, everything on Wednesday, and then, like, maybe one extra box would show up Thursday. Now it's like, okay, we'll get some stuff on Monday. We'll get maybe another thing on Tuesday, then something else maybe on Wednesday, and a final thing, like a replenishment order on Friday. So, like, even Diamond is coming in multiple days.
Yeah, we got something yesterday from Diamond and again today.
Yep. And then, yeah, you start talking about, like, oh, you know, Penguin Random House can take 4 consecutive days to send out one in-stock order because of how they pack things in different ways from different warehouses.
And they're a little bit slow.
Yeah.
The order I was checking in was when you placed last Wednesday.
Yep. Sounds
like,
right.
It's a week and a half. Everybody else is a couple of days.
Not really. I want to say the Simon & Schuster one that showed up was also probably from the previous week.
Okay.
Like, Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House, and Hachette are all 7 to 10 days, depending on where we place it in the week and holidays and things like that.
Man.
Like, that's why they had to be made into distribution accounts in Comic Suite, because we're doing a second order before the first order shows up, so we have to have a reserved inventory for that to make sure that we're not doubling up our orders. They're like that. Ingram, our worst discount, comes in 2 days. Diamond, now becoming our second worst discount, maybe 3 days. Our best discounts, they take like a week to show up.
Yep.
It's not great.
Frequent texter during the podcast, Robert Burns, was in the store today when I was unpacking those orders. And when I unpacked Hachette, I said, hey, why don't you take a look at how this is packed? And he goes, yeah, you guys talk about it on the podcast often. And I go, no, just take a look. Let me just cut this box up. Look in this. He looked at it and he said, it's not that I didn't believe you when I heard you say it, but seeing it just makes you realize how bad it is.
Pretty bad.
How it's just stacks of books going in any direction, one manga standing on the sides, and a piece of crumpled craft paper tucked somewhere in the box. And he even looked at it, he said,
like a little gift they're giving you. Not intended to necessarily like protect anything in shipment, but just like a, hey, while we're sending you a bunch of books, have a piece of paper as well.
He's like, how are these not all worse? And ironically, Penguin Random House, who at least uses a lot of bubble wrap just on the top, that's who we have most of the damages from.
Yeah.
Both of our Kingdom Comes this week,
I saw,
destroyed.
Yep.
And again, there's always a handful of books that I'm like, I don't like this. It's bent. We'll still put it out.
Yeah, because
these other ones are like, no,
is not having it for 3 weeks. or whatever.
Here's a weird diamond shipment. There was stuff we got in, including a manga. I don't remember how to pronounce the name of it. But we got one, and there was only one on the pick ticket, on the invoice. But going to receive it, it says 2.
Okay.
Like, okay, well, we didn't get 2, we got 1.
Probably means a second copy is going to be showing up in another box.
But then it's like, okay, well, you have to claim it as a shortage. I should have just unchecked it.
Yeah.
But I forgot about that.
That's fine.
Until literally I was saying it.
Yeah.
So, ha ha ha. But that's not, I mean, I can't, that's not my fault.
It's true.
It wasn't there.
Yeah.
Your invoice says 2, we got 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty dumb. There's so many extra steps, and it was when Donovan first came in today, because Donovan hasn't worked a full day in quite a while because she moved on to work real jobs.
Right.
But she was filling in for Gina today.
Oh, nice.
And when she first came in, I said, hey, Donovan, you're going to see how vastly different Fridays are. How...
No more sitting on the side counter reading issues of Hellboy
No,
comics
I just
or
mean
whatever.
the way the day is structured and how it works.
Sure.
And the first thing I do is yell about something Kent did. She's like, seems like Fridays to me.
Yeah.
And then literally everything that happens, she's like, that's exact same. Guy comes in with a box full of comics. You guys buy comics? No, we don't. Who does? No idea, man. All right. What about Michael Jordan sport? Let me stop right there. We don't have any of... No, we don't buy any of this stuff. So he leaves and Donovan goes, same old Fridays.
Yep.
Like literally everything she got was such a flashback. It's like, I guess it hasn't changed.
No.
It's just changed like how much extra work there is.
True.
How many boxes show up, how many invoices to check in, how many things to file.
Yep.
And it's not as if it's just Fridays.
That's true.
Things come in all the time.
All the time now.
Did you see that next week's Diamond River is 5 boxes?
Yeah, but packed weirdly.
Yeah. When I first got it, I'm like, oh, 5 boxes. It's a small week from the Expediter. No, that's not that email.
This is the other one. Yeah, and
That
those
is
will
a
show up
different
on
one.
Tuesday, so that's great.
And I know it sounds like we're often complaining about this, but man, the way business is conducted has changed so much
Yep.
just in the past year.
It's exhausting.
And it's so much more work for less of a profit.
Yeah, but I mean, you could argue more money overall. I mean, that's certainly the thing that we just said about being our best month ever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's less profitable in the sense of percentages, but in raw numbers, it's significantly more money. Like, that's what's making so much work is we're selling way more books to more people.
There were a couple of people today that, like grandparents came in looking for books for younger kids, and
Sure.
I'm like, oh yeah, no, that room over there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just in the middle of a mountain of things. I'm like, I need to go in there and help them. I should point out some things. I should go. And before I got a chance to stop what I was doing, they were back up buying stuff.
Great.
I'm like, I'm really sorry to get a chance to come in there and help you. Like, no, we didn't need it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that I think has always been my intention as far as, like, store layout goes, is to make it something where we don't have to do that. It's nice to be able to do that. It's certainly, you know, sometimes a better experience if someone's able to get that sort of personal shopper thing. But, yeah, I mean, designing the store in a way where people can sort of discover things and can sort of, you know, find similar books. So if they're like, oh, it's for a kid who likes Raina, well, here's a bunch of books that are like Raina.
Yeah, all in the same
and
area.
there you go. Like, that was the thing that I had to do the other day because it was a family where the kid had burned through the Wings of Fire stuff. And it was like, well, here's a bunch of other kind of action-adventure-y kids' books. Take a look at these.
I had a family in looking for graphic novels in Spanish, but for kids.
Sure.
Like, yeah, here's our one Spanish Sonic graphic
Uh-huh.
novel. And then they had a lot of other questions, and they'd either ask Donovan or Hawaii or whatever the closest. And everything's on the phone. Do you have this? Do you have this? So she shows me this Thanos book. So, do you have this? And I looked at it and I said, I've never seen that before in my life. I don't know if that's a digital first comic. I don't know what that is. I don't even know what that word is. She's like, it's Thanos Wins. It's in Spanish.
Oh,
Like, oh yeah, we have Thanos Wins in English. That's what they wanted.
okay, great.
But I mean, it was like
A different cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the word for win, which is like Gala or not Gala, but Ghana or something.
Sure.
Right, like under Thanos. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. We've never had that. Oh no, we did. We did. We have it right now.
Just in a
We
different
do.
language.
We do have it.
Yeah.
There was a man who came in reeking of cigarette smoke,
Okay.
and it was right when the orders came in, and Bob was still there, and Donna was at the counter, and I was right there, and he just starts babbling, and it's like, okay, this guy's gonna be trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So I walk up and I literally like motion down him, like, get behind me. And I say to Bob, I'm like, hey, thanks for visiting, but I think that, I know you got to beat traffic. Go ahead. Like saying, you should go.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks later, he actually thanked me. He's like, I didn't know how to get away from that guy.
Sure.
So the guy starts like, what are you... Jim Lee. What about Jim Lee?
What about Jim Lee?
Never met him. Does he study anatomy? I'm sure he did some sort of study. I don't know about Jim Lee. And hey man, I'm really busy. If you're not buying anything, I don't have any time right now. I have a lot of work to do. So he stood and said something else about Jim Lee. Then he walked into the store. I'm like, great, now I got to like follow this guy on the camera.
Yep.
The whole time. And then he actually came up and bought something.
That's cool.
And then he goes into...
Was it a Jim Lee comic?
No. What was... Then he goes into Sidekicks.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear him talking. So I look in the mirror and he's talking to a woman who was in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, great. So I go in, start... he's asking her about something. I start shelving books, like reading things right by him. Then he turns and sees me. He's like, I think I have to go.
Mm-hmm.
So he leaves. And I said to her, I'm like, was he bugging you? She's like, yeah, but it's all right. I'm like, I'm sorry. I came in here as quick as I could.
Sure.
But it's like, man, I should have just thrown him out.
Yeah, probably.
But I mean, he bought a book and he wasn't... He was just asking her questions about books he wanted to get for his 3-year-old kindergartner.
Mm-hmm.
And she pointed that out. She's like, yeah, he said that his son loves Baby Shark, and he wanted Baby Shark comics to give to his 3-year-old son who is in kindergarten.
Mm-hmm. That sounds right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That all tracks.
And then when I told him, there are no Baby Shark comics, and this is me now,
Right.
not her. I'm like, there are no Baby Shark comics. They don't do them. My son also likes this cartoon with cars in it. Do you have any? Nope, we don't have it. We don't have that. I don't know what that is. We don't have it. And that's when he decided he needed to leave.
Okay.
But it's like, man, come on. There were certain points during the day where Donovan had said, oh, no, it wasn't. Oh, well, somebody. Well, okay. Other people and Donovan had pointed out other people in the store and said, did they not know social cues?
Maybe everyone forgot over COVID.
Maybe. Maybe it's a thing. And I always say that the most important thing we do is helping people buy books.
Okay.
Whether it be ringing them up, answering their questions, pointing things out.
Sure.
But it's also the thing we have the least amount of time for.
Some days, yeah.
To be able to get the product for them to buy on the shelves.
That's true.
Sometimes we have to make a choice between checking these books in or helping somebody find a book.
It's unfortunate.
And when it's just a question of, oh, do you have this book? That's easy. But what about this or this? And I didn't realize we were just stocking Sunstone for the shelf.
We did at one point. I mean,
well, a hardcover came back in today.
Oh, it shouldn't have. That's super weird. I would not have restocked that.
Really? Okay. Well, it was on the invoice.
I'm going to have to figure out why that. Wait, from Diamond?
Yeah.
I have no idea why that
because
would
it's
be.
an Image hardcover.
Okay, I'm going to have to dig into that because we would never have restocked that.
Oh.
We wouldn't have.
Interesting.
Like, that wasn't a thing I thought we ever carried for the shelf, let alone anything we would have a restock level on.
Now, with the number of questions we've gotten with it over the years, and there have been
but they do like
so many
smaller
volumes. Yeah,
Like,
so
we
when they
did
did
a hardcover,
when they did the hardcover, I did order it when it was new for
Maybe
the
that's
store.
it.
So we want to just. I wonder.
I'm going to remote into the system after this podcast.
I wonder if that was
I don't want us having hardcovers of Sunstone. Seems like a waste of money.
Well, before it even made it to the shelf, someone's like, "Oh my god!" Like Donovan's like, somebody was just asking about this book.
Insane.
Yeah.
Did it sell then?
No.
Okay.
But because Donovan's like, "Oh look, we just got this book in the shipment."
Mm-hmm.
She looked at the books and this other thing. She's like, "Oh my god, look!" And like started going through the to be shelved piles.
Okay.
And found something she wanted more.
That's great.
But yeah, it was like, yeah, these are eventually going out. Like Death, I think the Death book with the aforementioned Death book from this podcast.
Okay.
That was one that caught her eye, and she needed to talk about. And then it was other Neil Gaiman books, and then yeah. So yeah, and Sun was this is a drama, right? That would go drama, and
Yeah.
it's in the system under drama. So
yeah. I mean, I'm sure we've had it before, but often things are in the system simply because we got it in for a special order, or we ordered it and it never sold, or whatever.
I admit there were a lot of books that came in that I'm like, oh, these got to be special orders, and weren't. But also several of the special orders that we called on today, people came right in.
That's great.
And one person, when they came in, I said, I wish everybody was as excited to get a call about a book being in as you were on the phone today.
That's nice.
That was really great. And they came right in. He was very happy. A thing that would have made people not want to come in or be in the store at all last week, this happened after we'd recorded last week, but before last week's episode made it to air, was the indoor monsoon that happened on Saturday of last week.
Oh, yeah.
Where it didn't just rain heavy outside, it rained heavy in the store, where it was so bad we needed to pull everything away from every window.
Yeah.
And I mean everything from every window.
Oh.
The back issues are already set like, I don't know, 8 or 10 inches away from the window. Mm-hmm. So we didn't move those shelves, but we did pull the boxes as far out as they could come.
Yeah.
And all of the half off stuff had to move, all the front window tables, everything in Sidekicks had to move, because it was a downpour. And I put up a video on Instagram and Facebook of just water coming in the front door after the heavy stuff had hit. Mm-hmm. So it was still a lot of water coming in, but it wasn't literally the sheets of water that were pouring in over the door.
Sure.
And then the other videos I put, the longer ones, there was one, I did a tour of the store during the rain, but I put it in as a story, so those disappear after a day.
Okay.
I'm like, oh, I should have put these up normally, because I sent all of those to our landlord, but I couldn't send the 50-second one. It's way too big of a file.
Sure.
And as it was, everything else I had to upload the Dropbox and send them Dropbox files, because the videos were too long to attach to an email.
Yep.
But I know it was a very hard rain all over the city, and a lot of people got a lot of damage. Green Brain Comics in Detroit got Dearborn, Detroit, somewhere in Michigan, lost almost everything and had to close for days.
Oh, that's terrible.
Like they had a storeroom that just got demolished. Oof. Like the room they keep all the new comics in was fine, mm-hmm. but like they lost a ton of stuff. It was awful for them.
That's too bad.
So I mean, for us, by Sunday morning, everything was put back together.
Yep.
For the most part.
Yep.
It's just that it freaked the people out who were in the store at the time, me and Andrew included, and it was a ton of work. And it's like, maybe we need to have a whole closet full of towels on hand,
Maybe.
We don't have enough towels because this isn't anything we expect to have happen. And while an attorney friend of ours said, let me see your lease, let me see what's up with this kind of thing. So I sent that to them. But also, I sent a letter to the landlord with all the videos attached and saying, like, this has been 13 years of this. I know you've sent people out before. What can we do? Mm-hmm. How can we stop this from happening? We lost a ton of product. We predominantly sell paper.
Yeah.
And not only did it rain in the store for a while, afterwards it was so humid.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a very wet day, and definitely on Instagram and Facebook, you can see the front door video where there's a tiny little bucket, well, a decent-sized bucket, but a poor bucket, trying to pull all of its weight, catching this rain that is coming from everywhere, and it just can't cover it all. And you see the drops hitting the soaked carpet like 2 feet into the doorway.
Yeah.
And all the water comes from the top of the windows, and there's nothing we can do about that, and I don't know. We do plan, and we've talked about this before, we do plan to replace the carpet this summer. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying this mainly to give people a heads up that we'll definitely need a ton of help.
Yeah, that's true.
The night before, the day after, or during, or whatever, in shifts or however we do it, we don't even know yet. But I'm more afraid that our timetable of one day closed for this is going to get wrecked when they tear up the old carpet and they see, oh, look, here's 13 years worth of mold that was trapped under here.
Possible.
This needs to be cleaned. This needs to be sealed. Like, I don't want to spend all this money putting in new carpet only to have it still leak and wreck it right away.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah. And I mentioned all those things to the landlord about how we want to replace it. We're worried about it getting ruined immediately.
Yeah.
As you can see from the emails I forwarded you, their response.
Yep.
That means nothing, by the way.
Yeah, they did not respond.
No. But I mean, I'm sure it's a matter of what do we do? Because like literally, they've sent people. They've sent out maintenance people, construction people, what have you, builders. I'm sure there's a word I can think of. Developers.
The problem with the water damage is that it is something that was screwed up at an incredibly early stage of building the building, and now to fix it, you would basically have to deconstruct the entire west side of the building. Including like the ground floor commercial and the residences on the second floor to fix it. And that's just not going to happen. Like that option is not on the table.
What if they just sealed that whole wall in plexiglass?
Maybe.
I'm only partially kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the worst it could do? Trap water in between the plexiglass and the windows.
I guess so, yeah.
And then we drill vent holes at the bottom so the water that gets stuck in there can come out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
We can do it ourselves. We'll get PVC piping as opposed to 2x4s because we don't want the wood to warp.
Of course.
And then, what's the big sheet we do? 8 feet? No, 8x4 like paneling. Like paneling. We run that. Have to get. It's only a couple $1,000s.
Yeah, easy
we can
enough.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. How do we adhere the PVC to the brick? It can be done. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know that this is audio, but I already have an image in my head of how I would legitimately do this.
Okay.
It wouldn't look great.
No.
How dare you?
I mean, you said a couple grand, so like I assume it's not going to look that great.
I feel like you're casting aspersions on my handyman abilities.
I hope not.
Boy, how long did that back issue monstrosity last? Forever until we destroyed it.
It's true.
Sure, it didn't look as professional as the rest of the store, but it was sturdy as all get out.
It was, that's true.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do about that.
The short answer is nothing.
Nothing,
I'm just going to go ahead and say that. Like, if this was a problem that could have been solved simply or cheaply, it would have been solved 12 years ago. Like, this is not for lack of people being interested in solving it so much as the solution is, it's impossible. It is impossible to do. Like, the people upstairs would have to be moved. Our store would have to be closed for weeks, probably.
Yeah, okay, but so we know where water's coming in. Why can't we seal all of those points up? Like, what if somebody did tuck pointing? That's not the right word, but basically just put caulk all around all of those seams throughout the entire store.
Apparently that is insufficient.
The water will what? It can't come in? Does it back up and go somewhere?
I guess. I mean, like, if that was a thing that people could have done, I think they would have done it the first time we complained a decade ago.
Well, I mean, keep in mind that was a different owner back then.
Multiple owners, and they
but
and like you said, they've sent out contractors and stuff. If a contractor could have looked at this and gone, "Let's just caulk all of this and all of that," they would have done it the next weekend, and we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, just
this was their problem.
Yeah,
they caused all this.
About that. Yeah, I'm just saying that. So even these suggestions that are probably bad suggestions, I feel like that should at least be communicated to us. Why that isn't? Why
Sure.
Every time they've sent somebody else, they don't give us the verdict.
Right.
And knowing that we're going to be in that spot for a while, it just makes us want to change all the things that bug us.
Sure. That's reasonable.
And I think that wanting a store that sells predominantly paper to be dry on the inside is not too much to ask.
No, it's a fair request.
I mean, we've given up complaining about the air conditioning because that can never get fixed.
No.
Wasn't so bad today.
That's good.
But, the 82, 85 degree, sometimes 90 degree days in store.
Yeah.
Could live without those.
Not great.
But yeah, again, knowing that we're going to be there for a while, it is definitely a case of looking forward and being like, how do we improve all these things?
Sure.
The things that we were just putting up with until the lease is up is one thing, but now to be like, no, it's going to be a while.
Yep.
Let's see what we can do.
Sure.
Indoor umbrellas for everyone.
Yeah, there you go.
That doesn't protect the product at all.
No, I suppose not.
It just makes sure water's going to be getting elsewhere.
Are you an aspiring comic book creator? Talent Talk Live is a private virtual platform where industry leaders teach you the craft of making great comics. This week on Talent Talk Live, join comic legend Howard Chaykin for a 3-part series where he teaches effective panel design, plotting, outlining, and a whole lot more. All of our talks include live Q&A and an opportunity to get your work critiqued by the biggest names in the comic industry. To reserve your seat at one of our upcoming talks, visit us at talenttalklive.com.
So, Di, you read Primordial #1. Did you read anything else? Any other previews?
I didn't read any of the previews. I read that, and I read next week's Nice House on the Lake and Wonder Girl.
I had left Nice House on the Lake out for you. I didn't know if you needed that one or not.
No, I already grabbed one.
Okay. So I'll get rid of mine.
Okay.
You don't read Department of Truth.
No.
Department of Truth had many text pages that were basically somebody writing, like in a journal or a letter.
Mm-hmm.
So it was handwritten pages that eventually break down as the story breaks down. Like, they get a little more manic as they go.
Sure.
But a lot of text pages.
Sure.
In a visual medium book.
Yeah, it's not great.
And then Nice House on the Lake has
a whole bunch.
Transcripts
and little charts, and the biggest flaw with Nice House on the Lake is that I still don't connect with anyone in the cast yet. They're way too big, and when they do like a text thing, that chat transcript where it's 10 different characters identified by their role, I'm like, I don't know who anybody is. When one of them shows back up later in the story, I'm like, I guess this was this other character, because I don't know who anyone is. I know you gave me like a little like cast of characters in the last issue, but there's like 12 of them. I don't remember them all.
Yeah, and I would have appreciated at least the symbols being next to everybody when they appeared.
Like, so basically everything that's going on in Nice House on the Lake, like, it's a cool horror story, but it's not a horror story where I'm invested in anybody in the book.
Yeah.
I just like the idea. I like the approach. I like the storytelling.
It's still good.
It's great atmosphere. But I like, and it seems like they're going to do a thing where like each issue is from a different character's POV, which just means that once again, like, oh, you were in this one character's head? Cool, you're not going to be in that other character's head for like the next 10 issues. So like, I hope you remember what they were all about, because you're not going to get their point of view ever again.
Isn't it only 5 issues?
It's 12.
Is it 12? Okay.
Yeah, it's 12 issue series.
I
think there's like 10 characters.
I knew it was a limited series.
Yeah.
With the potential to do more, FYI, James Tynion has said that he could do more in that world.
Sure. I assume it's already getting a lot of interest from different production houses and streaming services, because it seems tailor-made for a very successful streaming miniseries.
I wonder how... That's interesting. I wonder how, like, it's... I don't know. That's for somebody else to adapt it. You would need to know what the whole story is to see how you break it down episodically.
Oh, I think, first.
But I mean, if you look at each issue as an episode...
Yeah.
I think episode 2, where a lot happens, it's not scary.
You think issue 2 isn't scary?
The one that just came out? The one you just read?
You think it's not scary?
Yeah.
Oh man, there's a bunch of things as I'm reading this, I'm like, that is going to play so differently when they make the TV show, because it's going to be significantly scarier.
I mean, I don't feel any character is in peril or jeopardy.
Like the bathroom scene and the statue are the 2 points where I'm like, oh, that's going to be...
The statue's great.
That's going to be nightmare fuel. Like when people...
I don't even remember what the bathroom scene is.
I put it away already.
That's fine. I'm not asking you to... I mean, obviously, you can't give anything away.
Right.
But I don't... Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah.
Like, that's a neat scene in the book, but in live action, it's going to be way more perilous. And, like, without talking too much about an issue of a comic that no one...
This, obviously.
Yeah, that's the statue stuff.
Right. But this is, I think, the weirdest part.
Sure.
Seeing how it ties back in through the previous...
I mean, without spending too much time talking about a book that no one besides retailers should have had a chance to read yet, a lot of the point of the second issue is, now that you've seen this insane scenario, like, what do they do with this information? And, you know, there's going to be some terror and there's going to be some relief that they're not mixed up in all this, you know?
Yeah.
So it's those two emotions, those two tensions kind of being the pressure cooker of issue 2.
Like, I can absolutely relate to the goodbye messages,
Oh, sure, yeah.
but
A lot of nice little details.
yeah, but that doesn't on the you know, in a horror movie, that doesn't stand out as a thing that people would be like, oh God.
No, but that's the thing. Like, it's a different kind of horror because it's more atmospheric. It's less about jump scares, although there are some. And that's the stuff I would point out is like, that's going to be real different. But a lot of what I like about it as a horror thing is that it's using kind of the power of comics, where you can't really do jump scares in comics. Not really.
Yeah.
That's not the way the medium works. So you have to do something that sort of sits in the brain a little bit more, that finds something in the reader that they can connect with. And if it's not the characters, which for me it's not the characters, it's the situation and like the hypotheticals. And that was the thing that I always liked about James Tynan's Boom horror miniseries, where they would really take these like kind of societal changes,
Mimetic, cognitic, and
eugenic, and just sort of let those ideas spill out a little bit. So the reader could, you know, put themselves in those shoes or be able to sort of do that sort of metagaming as well, where they're just like, what would happen next? How would that have changed? And so on. And that becomes part of the terror is, you know, the part of it that the reader brings to it, rather than just being acted upon like you would in a jump scare film where you just sit there and then a loud noise happens and then you jump a little bit. But this is something where the fear and the terror and the unease is later, is, you know, something where, you know, after dinner you're like, oh, you know, something occurs to you about the story, or as you're, you know, laying down to go to sleep, you start thinking about that one scene and the implications of it and all that sort of stuff. Like that's a different kind of horror that I think would be really successful in a TV miniseries, because it has that sort of water cooler thing where, you know, you watch an episode and then people spend the next week sort of, you know, talking about their favorite scene or hypothesizing about what could happen next. Or like, it seems like the sort of show that Amazon Prime would release on a weekly basis to keep the discussion going, because it's that kind of show. What would you have done? What would you have done if you were that person? Or would you have done what that other person did, or all that?
what would your nickname be?
Like, what would my
the retailer
role be?
Yeah.
Yeah, like bookseller or something,
Yeah.
probably. Something stupid.
So I'm just sorry to say we both can't exist in that world.
No, that's true.
Only one of us.
Yeah.
So the point is, The Nice House on the Lake from DC Comics is excellent.
It's really good.
And number 2 comes out next week. The week after that, we'll have the second print of number 1. And we'll have a lot because we underordered the first one. And
So July 7th is issue 2. July 14th is the reprint of issue 1.
yes.
Okay.
So if you're at all interested, pick up number 2 next week just to make sure you don't miss out.
Sure.
And then come back for number 1 the week after.
Yeah.
That's why I've been pitching the second print of number 1 in the newsletter.
Yeah, and if you're a subscriber and you don't want to run the risk of, you know, having issue 2 in your house without having issue 1, I mean, we're happy to set it aside for a week and you can buy 1 and 2 at the same time.
Yeah, that's fine. Just don't miss out is the point. It's
real good.
rare that a book is... it's rare that Dal is raving about a horror book.
That's true. This is the kind of horror I like, though. This is stuff where it's, again, these sort of big questions and these weird emotions and all that sort of stuff I think is way more compelling to me than just like, there's a monster. Like, I don't care about that.
Yeah, sure.
This is good creepy horror. I like Gideon Falls, and Gideon Falls was doing some, not similar stuff, but it was approaching how it wanted to tell story in the same way. And the art's so good. The art is so good in Nice House on the Lake.
Oh, yeah, it's great. These guys did detective comics previously.
Yeah, and
these creators.
Yeah, Jordi Belaire's doing the colors, and she's doing a total Tula Lotay thing on it, and I love it. And it was so weird reading that, and then reading Wonder Girl right after, where Jordi Belaire's like, yeah, cool, I'll just color this like Laura Allred. Just do flat colors everywhere. It's like, oh, okay, you can do anything. You can color in any style that works for the story. That's why you're Jordi Belaire, and you're a genius. Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's very exciting, and we don't want to miss out on that. And as far as other books that we just restocked, I was surprised to see you ordered 5 copies of the DC Comics Batman cocktail book.
I did, yeah. I feel like that's a thing that we could put up next to, like, those mini books of heroes or whatever.
Sure. I have it on the front table right now.
Yeah, there you go. That's a perfect place for it.
Yeah. I mean, we got in, I think, 4 or 5 the first time and sold out, and I bought one of them.
Yeah, I think it's the sort of book that, like, it's a very, like, Quimby's Chicago Comics kind of book.
Sure.
Where it's like people who don't really care about comics who are in a comic book store would be like, oh, this is cute.
I feel like if I had the time for this, there could be a small segment in each episode of the podcast where I have made one of the cocktails and discuss it.
Sure.
Talk about its origin, and who it's referencing, and more importantly, how it tastes.
Maybe you should do a video series. I think people would appreciate that.
Oh, no, I don't want to. I just want to do something that makes this easier. I don't want to add more work to my life.
You just want to drink.
I can do that anyway. You know how busy we were today?
No cocktails?
No cocktails. You know how disappointed Donovan was to work and not get a cocktail?
I'm going to assume incredibly.
I mean, it didn't come up, but still, I'm sure that she would have preferred drinking.
Okay.
Like I know I would have. And I think I'll go do that now. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. Like Challengers Comics on Facebook, follow @Challengers on Twitter, and help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.